Let's say I ask you to write a song, and for some reason you actually do it. What would that song sound like? Just by thinking about songwriting, do you already get some ideas, or do you have to think about it while holding an instrument or looking at a sheet? No matter which it is, it would probably be a good song, but it would also probably sound very you. And there's nothing wrong with that, we all have patterns we fall into. And that's part of what gives us our distinctive sound, but it can also make our music sound predictable and, even worse, repetitive. There is no way to completely avoid this, but there are ways to alleviate it. One such way, which I like a lot, is to impose rules and limitations onto myself when writing a song. It's a fun little way to challenge your creativity and to expand it, to practice it. It forces you to think about songwriting in ways you aren't used to, which will expand your horizon, and maybe you'll even learn something about your own creativity. Of course, this will also limit the possibilities for how the song can sound. You're removing quite a chunk of the freedom you usually have when songwriting. But ultimately, that just means you can't go on autopilot. You have to think about how you can express yourself creatively while also think about how to follow the rules you set for yourself. I'm gonna do a series of these songwriting challenges where there'll be one video like this one where I talk about the rules I set for one specific song, and then the next week I'll upload a song that follows those rules. And what better way to start off that little journey than with a whole step scale? Ah yes, the whole step scale. You've probably come across it before, although probably in ambience or sound effects rather than in proper composition. And for a good reason. It looks and sounds like this. Yeah, you may notice a problem right off the bat. The whole step scale is exactly what it says on the tin. All the notes are one step apart, which means you have 6 notes to work with. A lot of tension all over the place, none of which can be resolved in a traditional way. It's just tension all over the place, and no matter which melodic or chord progression you try to use, it won't sound natural or intuitive. The good thing about this scale is that it's very easy to keep track of. There are just 6 notes, and there are no weird half steps in other places like there are in a lot of other experimental scales. It's pretty hard to fuck up the theory on this one. The bad thing about the scale is pretty much everything else. If you use triads or traditional chords, you will end up with only augmented major chords. If you use thirds but not fifths, you will end up with everything sounding really jolly and bouncy, because everything will be a major third. And if you use fifths and not thirds, you will end up like a black metal dramatic sort of feel, because an augmented fifths is just a minor 6. There are also tritones everywhere, and they sound, of course, dissonant, but for some reason the augmented major chords sound just about as dissonant. You'll get that problem a lot. And already I'm kinda doing this wrong. I mean, it's easy to complain about the scale because, quite frankly, there are a lot of problems with it, but that's a terrible way to go into it if you want to write something good. After I decided to use this scale, I spent a lot of time looking at it going, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? Then I realized I had to calm down and approach it professionally. I mean, the problems I complain about give it some pretty distinct traits that we can use in our favor, so let's talk about its characteristics. First of all, you can just forget about trying to make this sound normal. It won't happen. In the song I wrote, I used a lot of these augmented major chords because I like triads, but that's not to say that's the best way to go about it. It's an unconventional scale. Write something unconventional. And I mean, when I say conventional, I mean that in a pop rock metal kind of sense. Maybe you're used to music you'd approach differently, which might give you an advantage here. Second, there is no way to avoid a major feel in this scale, unless you want to avoid thirds altogether, but it's already a very limited scale, so I don't think that's a good idea. So if you use thirds, it will sound jolly. If you use triads, they will sound very dissonant. If you use fifths but not thirds, it'll sound dramatic. And if you use seconds or sevenths, you can actually create tension in a traditional way. There's just no traditional way to resolve it. Plus, it's always good to know you can just jump to a tritone whenever you want, even if you're not going to do it a lot. Third, the whole step scale does not have a tonal center. Since all the notes are equally spaced, you can start it wherever you want, and you can modulate without switching keys whenever you want, which is pretty handy for variation. And see, that's actually quite a lot of stuff we can do with it. No matter what you do, of course, it'll sound like the Heno scale it is, but it does give us a lot of options. Most of all, I'd say it gives us options for how jolly or tense or goofy each part should be. And finally, this is a pretty goofy scale. In my song, I managed to write one part that didn't sound bouncy. The rest of the song I didn't even try to argue with it, so, well, bouncy it is. Still, I think I managed to write a pretty good song on its own merits, so maybe I went into this judging the scale too harshly. But because of its massive limitations and endless repetition within itself, I don't think there's any reason to write a lot of songs in that scale, at least not for a while. A song written in the whole step scale is more of a novelty project than anything else. And I think that's it, really. Of course, all I've said about this is my own opinion on the scale. Maybe you feel entirely different about it. Next week I'll upload a song written in the whole step scale, and I'll make sure that video and this one link to each other. And if you write a song based on this challenge, let me know. I really want to hear it. Doesn't matter if you write it now or in a year or whenever, please show me. And of course, if there's something I forgot to say or something I got wrong, then please let me know in the comments below. Well, thank you nerds for watching this video. I'll see you later. Bye bye.